is the Horn family really? We have received that question throughout the years, and we've received it more in the last few weeks than ever before. And I am more excited than ever to introduce an expert on this exact topic, Nita, Mom. Welcome to the Donna Howell Show.
So I'm an expert now, huh?
But you're the expert on who is the Horn family.
Well, then we're in trouble.
And another question that we get a lot, kind of behind the scenes is, what are we into? Like, what do we do? Like, what are our passions and everything like that? We've had a lot of people wondering, what is this WPR thing? Some people are just hearing about it for the first time. Right. So what people have repeatedly heard from us throughout the years is that a lot of what we do with Skywatch TV and Defender Publishing underwrites WPR, which stands for Whispering Ponies Ranch. But as you know, a lot of the people that are following the Donna Howell Show haven't necessarily seen everything else that we've done. So it is all linked. It's interconnected. We do a lot of things on Skywatch TV and Defender Publishing to underwrite WPR and keep that ministry afloat. And that is the heart of what we do here. It's a lot of it's the important thing that we do here. So what is Whispering Ponies Ranch?
Whispering Ponies Ranch is our charity that we support, and we have a lot of help out there. Some of your watchers, I've noticed as I've seen them comment on the Donna Howell Show Facebook page, that I also see them on the Skywatch and on the Whispering Pony page as well. So some of them do understand what it is, but for those who have never heard of it or don't understand it, Whispering Ponies Ranch is our charity, and what we do there is we have a campground where children come. These are traumatized children. They come out of every kind of walk of life. They are wards of the state for Missouri. Some of them come out of neighboring states, and I won't say where. But Whispering Ponies Ranch, with the support of our donors and the underwriting through Skywatch and Defender, these children, when they come here, we house them and host their groups at no cost. So it's important to understand that when they come there, what we do is we partner with the groups that come, and we have two groups primarily that we work with. One is called Royal Family Kids Camps, also called For the Children. I think recently they had a name change, but you can find them either name. The other organization is called Teen Reach. The vision of that came out of Royal Family Kids Camps, and the people who founded the Teen Reach used to be the directors of a group in the other organization. So
you have Royal Family Kids Camps, which are wards of the state, kind of a foster children scenario for the younger.
Yes.
And then Teen Reach is more the same idea, but with the older kids?
Yes, because Royal Family, whenever the children reach around the age of 11 or 12, depending on where their birthday falls, they will age out because they can only house them from about 6 through 12. So at that point, they age out and they graduate. And by graduating, they understand they cannot come back to that particular organization. So out of that, the Teen Reach directors wanted to carry on in mentoring these children in a moment when they're at this really crucial time in their life, when they're turning 13, going into this hardest time of my life as I look back. I was just telling my one of my grandkids the other day, she was telling me how hard 7th grade is. And I'm like, yeah, it was my worst grade. It was my hardest one. So these kids are going into the hardest time in their life where they've got all this peer pressure that ramps up tenfold, and they've got all these hormones that are changing. They can't stop that. This is a natural process in their body. They have no control, but they don't have any guidance either. And some of what they've been through has set them on the wrong trajectory of life. So this is why when they come out of the Royal Family, no matter how much mentoring we have, it's crucial that mentoring continue through these next few years. It's been a beautiful companion ministry because we've seen some really good things coming out of both of those ministries. So Whispering Ponies Ranch, I talk a lot about these other entities because we partner with them. So Whispering Ponies Ranch, what we do, now that you kind of understand what they do, we have these children come here in groups. So each week we house another group, and they bring the children, and we house their bunk beds. I mean, we have the facilities. We have all the amenities. We use animals in our program, helping these kids to find some way of trusting, to rebuild that trust that has been broken through the situations that they've come through. And some of these things that they've come through are horrendous.
With the kids that come around here, the likeness of their face in photos is
Yes.
strictly prohibited.
Yes.
We can't have any camera equipment around most of the time, all of that. And so because such a serious prohibition of talking about their specific details is in place, I can't go into detail. What I can say is that my husband, James Howell, used to be a lot more than now, was one of the main horse handlers or pony trainers, as they would say in lay parlance. And my husband, if you know, everybody that knows my husband knows that this is true. He's pretty untouchable emotionally. Like he's just not.
He's pretty strong.
He's just an ox when it comes to disturbing details. And there have been a couple times where he's come home and you can see there is a heaviness. And I've asked him, and he is allowed to tell me. Obviously, I'm not allowed to go around and tell anybody else. But some of the stories of what these kids have been through, they're literally so bad that they would show up on a not safe for work type list.
Yes.
Where, the rating about these stories would be so bad they wouldn't even be able to make Hollywood. They're just awful.
True.
Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that, because I really want people to understand the joy of what we're doing. But that's the horror of where they're in when they come here.
Right.
And a lot of them, as you've talked about on several different occasions in the past, they've never had a birthday party.
They've never been celebrated.
Right.
They have never been celebrated as a person with another year of life behind them and a year ahead. And that's very, very bizarre to me, to know that an 11-year-old child for the first time gets a birthday card, and it's like they want the card. The gifts are all fun, but they're holding the card. I got a card today.
That's what they're saying at our camp.
This
is what you mean.
I've seen it. Yes,
because
this
when
is the one.
To clarify, when the kids come to our WPR, they get a birthday party. They get a tea party dress, and that they get to keep. There's all these fun things that they get to do. For the folks at home that may not be as familiar with the foster lifestyle, it's not uncommon that several times a year, sometimes several times a month, you will be in the middle of the night, dead of the night, woken up and told, throw all your stuff in a garbage bag because you're going to a new home.
Right.
They don't have a backpack. They literally carry their stuff in a garbage bag. And so, they just have whatever state hand-me-down, Goodwill type stuff they
it's
can
just whatever
fit them
they
into.
can find, yes.
And here, they get treated to an all-you-can-eat buffet of every kind of imaginable food.
That was
full
it.
salad bar, fruit bar, all kinds of treats.
When you ask them, they write what I like about the camp. And the letters, a lot of it is food. There are a lot of kids, they chose to come because they get to eat while they're here. And not only do they get to eat 3 times. They get 3 meals plus snacks. Some of these kids, they don't eat. And when they do, they have to scrap. Then we have kids that come through that won't eat anything that's not in an individually wrapped package with an expiration date.
Right.
So that they know that food is clean and untampered with, because some of these kids have been mistreated food-wise as well. There's so many twisted stories that you could just, if that's what you wanted to talk about, we've got lots of that.
Right.
But to continue with the whole idea, I think you've got a little bit of an idea of what we do there. So from the moment these kids arrive off of the bus, and some of them, when they get off the bus, some of them, if they've been there, they know where they're going. And so they're like excited. They jump off the bus, yay! Some of them that have never been there, they don't know. All they know is what they know, and they don't know what's ahead. One little lady in particular, I remember one year, she was on the bus and she was so stressed, so nervous, and so scared, she vomited several times, and they were going to send her home. But the director of that particular camp said, let's just give it a few minutes. Let's just not react yet. She gets there, and when she gets off the bus, she's really just withdrawn. And so she made it through the first day, right? She was okay the first night she got through. By the second day, she was a little bit like the food and just getting into it. And the games and the songs and all of it's Christ-centered. Everything is all about the gospel. And these kids, they come here and they learn about Jesus, who really loves them. And they learn about all of these other people that are real people who also love them. But this little girl, by the end of the week, this little girl, she was scaling rock walls, zipping zip lines. She was just as crazy confident as you could imagine. And she was praying for other people. I mean, just the change. They don't all come in and come out like that, but some of them do. Joe, who is our recreation director throughout the summer, is also host of Skywatch. He has started challenging these kids, the royal family ones, on about Thursday, they'll start asking, when do I have to leave? You know, they don't want to leave. And some of them will start getting in a bad mood because they know what's coming and they don't want to go back. They just want to stay. Joe has started challenging, well, you can come back. Even if you get too old, you can come back as a junior counselor, and then you can come back as a counselor, you know. So he challenges them to keep straight, to do good things, and to look forward to that opportunity. And some of them have. We've started seeing them come back, and I'm telling you, one of the most recent one, a young man, we went to visit their activities, Joe and I, and this young man walked out with his royal family shirt on because now he's a junior counselor. His face was just Cheshire smile bright.
Yay.
And he was like, I did it. I finally did it. I'm a counselor. And, you know, we were both, Joe and I, just weeping with joy on the inside because we know this was a little child that could have, he had choices in front of him.
He had roads.
There's this road and then there's this road. And most of these kids don't know that there's a better road.
Right.
But through these years, through these weeks, through the days, hours, whatever time that they are allowed to be at this facility, and this goes for all of the royal family and Teen Reach. I'm just saying there's a broad spectrum of what they accomplish, but we're proud to partner with the success of that. But these kids, they do find a different path. At the ranch, we're starting to see them come back, and they're coming back with some real patience and some real long-suffering and real compassion as to how to work with these little ones because they've been there, they know it's there, and they know that what is ahead, it can be good things. So the overall picture of Whispering Ponies Ranch in a nutshell, because this is a subject that could go on for hours.
Right, yeah.
But the nutshell of it is that this is our mission, is that these children that come in, they first of all, they see the love of God. They rebuild the bond of trust with humankind. They find Jesus and the salvation that he offers. And that in all of what I have just said, they find a better future. That they have a choice. It might be kind of rough right now, but in the end, when they get old enough to have choices of their own, they get to make a choice. They don't have to be subject to whatever they've been subject to forever. And I'll mention Samantha Orr. She is an absolute example of what I just said. And she's a young lady that right here in Missouri grew up through the worst scenario you can imagine. And her testimony is amazing. And
it's included
yes.
in the Rescue Us series.
Yes. And in addition to the Rescue Us series, there is Samantha's story is called Rescued. And she has her own story that comes separately from that. It's her story alone. So there's a lot of information out there, and people can be involved. People want to come and volunteer at the ranch. This is one thing I would love to tell people. There's limited things you can do because, first of all, the amenities that we do with our rock wall and our zip lines, all of that is certified, and it's
requires
all
certification,
very
training.
Yes. It's not something you could just walk in and say, hey, I can do that. No, you can't. Because, first of all, even if you are certified, you got to pass Joe. And he's pretty strict about who does things. And it's because he's a crazy safety kind of guy. In any case, sometimes we get phone calls about, or people want to email and they want to come and volunteer at the ranch, right? And some of them are specifically interested in handling horses or animals in general. And it's kind of not something that you can walk into. You have to have training and time to get to know the animal before you can work with that animal and with kids. And that takes a lot of time.
One of the things that I was kind of hoping to eventually shift to, and this feels like the right moment, there's a lot of people lately, especially since the unfortunate events of last October. There's been a lot of people that over Facebook and so on and so forth has been asking about our family. A number of different directions, a number of different ways. Who is the Horn family? Like, you are the absolute matriarch behind the scenes of everything that happens here, and not quite so behind the scenes anyways. You've been up front and center on a lot of Skywatch episodes, and so people are starting to get used to you and understand that when they see you, they're looking at the mom of, of the whole ministry, not just of Joe and Donna, but the mother of the ministry, and Allie. Lots of people that are familiar with a lot of what Allie does. But first of all, I've got to tell our audience that your story, long form, has been written in a book called No Fences. It started with the plastic pony. And I love that title. I've read this book. It's so funny. Okay, I just got to say, as a fan of the book myself, actually, having read it, and it just got produced on Audible and iTunes. So it's available in audio format now. And this kind of, in a roundabout way, because of how WPR came from the stem. It stemmed out of your dream, your lifelong dream about owning horses and working with horses. A person could say, do you want to know what WPR is and how it came about and what they do there? Okay, go read No Fences, because you're going to get the real backstory. It's going to start from the very beginning. But also, in addition to being kind of the backstory of how WPR came to be, it's a hilarious book. It's actually very, very funny how you met Dad, how you were best friends with Dad's dad, how, you and your mom got along, and there was some real hard parts to read about. But ultimately, the reason I brought up No Fences, because I know that people are sitting out there and they're thinking, who are they? And we get that question. Like, we love your family so much. Are you really as close as you look? I get that one. And the answer, bar none, yes, we are. We always have been.
Yep.
We have no drama. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every time that our family gets together for a barbecue, there is none of that,
There's no eyeballs.
mystery eyeballs and all these little side glances and drama. And like, our family just is that close.
Right.
And while people are getting to know us and getting to know you, I wanted to at least mention No Fences, because it's not only a hysterical read and a very good book, by the way, that goes into who you are and what you were driven by your entire life with your best friend and younger sister, Althea.
Yeah.
That is a very solid memoir book. It's such a good book. It's a good book for anybody that just wants to hear a good story. And now that it's available on Audible and iTunes, I'm excited about that. And by the way, the lady that we found to do the book, she's Georgia Southern. She's not Oklahoma Southern. But other than that, it's like dead on. Some of these characters that she's reading and the way that she's reacting to, different moments where God is speaking to you in the barn and different things like that. So I'm excited to let everybody know that that's out there. But I want to get back to No Fences. It started with a plastic pony. Now it's WPR, Whispering Ponies Ranch. And you are reaching children every single day with what we've got going on here.
Yeah.
And so much of Skywatch Television and Defender Publishing is propping Whispering Ponies Ranch, so it's important.
Yeah.
And I would love for you to be able to share, for people that may not know as much about you and they're just hearing about you or WPR for the first time, what is the deal with a plastic pony?
So when my little sister and I, before she was killed in a tragic accident in 1971, she was 11 years old, we grew up playing with these little farm animals that you buy like at any 99-cent store. We was always moving. Dad would always move and we'd lose them. And so we'd have to just save up our money. And when we get $1, we'd run to the 99-cent store and buy another package. And they always came with a little pink pig and a white horse. And we always bought the little farm animals that did not have any, like the horse never had a saddle or bridle. It was just free running. So we would take these little characters, and I was always the horse, and she was always she liked the piggy, and she would name it Rosie. So it was Lightning and Rosie's Adventures, and, it was our imagination, and it was always this big thing where we would save all of the other animals in the barnyard or in the wild or whatever the scenario was, because we would just make it up as we go. But it was always the same idea where you had this horse and this little pig that just worked together as a team to make sure everybody was safe. We tell this story in Rescue Us to a Greater Length. I always choke up because it takes me back, especially lately, since last October when my husband passed away, when your dad passed away. My heart is so much more sensitive to those people around me who have lost loved ones or face tragedies in their life. And so it hits home a lot faster and a lot harder and a lot deeper.
One of the things that I thought was so endearing and so lovable about your story is that you and your sister specifically sought out the damaged animals when you would go to buy a plastic horse, or if you were in a thrift store and there was a whole bunch of stuffed animals, you would specifically look for the one that was missing a button or had a hole in its ear or was leaking stuffing or whatever. And you specifically sought out the ones that had something going on so you and your sister could come home and nurse it back to health and care for it, right?
Yes. So another game that we played together was called Magic Carpet Ride. It wasn't anything about magic. It was more about this carpet that we could get on in our bed. It was our bed. So we'd get on our bed and that became a magic carpet. And we would take all the toys that we had and we'd just throw them all around the room, right? We would not meanly, we would toss them gently. And then we would pretend we were on a magic carpet, and then we would say, I was always the doctor, she was a nurse. And the reason is because I always had this needle and thread, and she would always go get the little critter and bring it to me, and then I would sew it together. We found great happiness in collecting broken stuffed animals so that we could bring home and play magic carpet, and then we would sew them up. But between Rosie and Lightning and magic carpet, it was always all about finding broken things and fixing them. And we were a team.
Restoration and redemption.
Restoration and redemption, and we worked together. It was how we were fit to and knitted together. And because we moved so much, we were each other's best friend. So even in school, when the schools would call my mom, did you know that your two girls are playing at recess? And Mom would go, and? They play at home. Well, I know, but they're a couple of years apart, and they need to play with their own ages. And Mom said, good luck doing that. So I remember one school in particular told my sister and I that we had to stay. There was a line in the gymnasium. You have to stay over there, and you have to stay over there. So what we did was we got a ball, and we played two square over the line.
Crying out loud.
They finally gave up because they could not keep us apart. We were inseparable, and we played, and those were our two favorite games. There's other things that we did, but those are the two that are most in the forefront.
What I love is that I'm getting this really, really powerful undertone from the very, very beginning. It's not something that you instilled in yourself. You didn't wake up one day and say, I think I'm going to be interested in caring about animals and being the redeemer of these animals that are hurting. It's been instilled in you from the beginning. Despise not thy small beginnings. And the Lord who has created a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. That's what I love about your story, because it was like you came in with this natural wiring, the desires of your heart. Like I've talked about the desires of the heart before, how we get it wrong. It's a long breakdown, but probably a quick way of saying it is that we always tend to think that means that we're going to wake up one day and say, oh, he finally gave it to me. God finally gave me that thing I wanted. Okay. No. If you look at it in the Greek and you break it down in proper context, what that verse is actually saying is not that the Lord's going to give you some big grand thing that you like. What it means is that he already instilled in you what feeds your soul. You know what I mean? You may not ever get a big mansion. You may not ever have a hot rod. You might not have this or that or the perfect job you want or whatever. But instilled within every single person from birth, God has given us not only gifts that we are good at, but a desire, a yearning for some way that his presence can move through us to do a ministerial purpose for his kingdom. That is the desire of our deepest heart, is to be useful in that kingdom purpose. So God will give that to you. He already has. It's already in you. You were born with it. Now, when you finally harness that gifting in you and you recognize how you can be useful.
It.
Yeah.
That was the confusing part for me for a very long time, because when you think about the idea of horses being something that God would wire you to do to help bring the gospel to people, or to bring healing, or to bring a greater knowledge of who he is in general. You know what I mean? Just if it's just even little words, because, sometimes you plant seeds and sometimes you harvest. And so these horses, I just couldn't figure out how in a ministry setting I would ever use them. So it took a while for me to figure that out. But when my husband and I first gave our hearts to the Lord, obviously the first thing we started praying about was ministry. We were in a church that was very, very fruitful in bringing them in and then mentoring them and then sending them out to save the world or do whatever God called them to do, right? It was a wonderful church, and there are churches like that. So when it came time for us to go out into our own ministry, there's not very many people that know how to even introduce the idea of thinking outside the box. So, you fall right into what you know. You're going to be a pastor or a Sunday school teacher or a children's church worker, or you're going to be a potluck organizer, or you know what I mean. What does the church...
You got your 5 or 6 things that the church has decided you're allowed to do.
Exactly. You got your men they do the men things where they're pastoring and all that. And then you've got the women who are the pastor's wives, which is what... Or the evangelist and the evangelist's wife, which is... And we did those things. But there was still this hankering, something inside that I could not get away from, and that was my absolute love for horses. And I love my kids too, obviously. I've raised my children, but there was this something about horses I couldn't get away from. Anyway, if you read No Fences, it kind of takes you through. So for the sake of time, I won't go there in depth. But what I will tell you is that there came a time when I realized that if you think outside the box and you look at what God has put is the desires of your heart, that is maybe something that he has put there to help as a tool to reach people around you in ways that no one else can.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
You and I have had this conversation behind the scenes a million times, but where I have fit in is such a weird niche category. Like it is. It's really weird, but it's so perfectly what I'm supposed to do. Like I feel like we find our callings, and in getting back to you, in your case, what started off with a plastic pony and a deep soul wiring to help animals, children, people towards this thing that was redemptive way before you gave your heart to Christ, way before you said the sinner's prayer and you came on your own accord, you and Dad together to the little church in Amity. Before all of those things happened, you were already feeling the desire of your heart, the calling toward kingdom work.
Yes.
And then it took you one horse after another. It's all in No Fences. I'm telling you, such a good book. But it took one horse after another for you to get a horse and go, this isn't working.
Right.
This isn't working. I want this to be the time, but the timing isn't right and it's not working.
Well, yeah.
All the way to all of a sudden the doors all opened up and it became Whispering Ponies Ranch. And now you are really serving the whole Horn family, by the way. It's not just you. It's not just Joe. All the ministry, even people that work, some of the cameras and the microphones and stuff like that in our recording studios are over there helping in the kitchen with the all-you-can-eat buffets and everything. It's a full deal. It's unfortunately not something that we can put a whole lot of camera footage up because of the rules for these wards of the state, but it is such a beautiful ministry. And it's such a part of the heartbeat of who we are as the Horn family.
Right.
So I am very blessed to have the opportunity to have the Horn family matriarch on to talk about WPR and everything else.
Well, I want to make sure that everybody understands that it would never have happened had I not had the right partner. And your dad, the visionary maker. I was thinking about this earlier before we were going to do the show. One thing I want to say about that is that our partnership was a marriage, and he and I had talked many times about how we felt that was a God match, that God had brought us together and put us together for these things. And it's been such a wonderful thing to know, of all people, God picked me to be a part of that. But he and I together, God gave the vision to. So it's just not just me. And even though he's not here, the vision of that has not been lost. It's stronger and greater than ever. And it is a family thing, because again, as a family, as knit close together as we are, it has taken this whole family together to accomplish all of this that we know in Skywatch and how it developed, and with Defender and how it came about, and the ranch. And again, what you said, the children, when they come to the ranch, it's our family and our staff. So it's a very unique knit together ministry. But I want to make sure that everybody understands that Tom Horn was huge in what we're talking about. It would never have happened without him.
I'll tell you, I'm glad we did this first. A lot of people that may know me may not know you. And so I kind of wanted to do this introduction. But next week, I'd really like to tackle a question that has been coming in more than any question our ministry has ever received, which is how we've been hanging in there since Tom went to be with the Lord. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.